So, although my buggy runs and drives really well, thanks to this book, I've realized that it has some fundamental problems. Number one, none of my warning lights work. The generator light doesn't illuminate. The oil warning light doesn't illuminate. The indicator light doesn't work. This headlight is brighter than that headlight. The side lights work, but when I switch on the headlights, that side light goes off and the left front indicator doesn't work. Those are things I wouldn't see driving in the buggy out in the sunshine. But it leaves me with a couple of problems that I need to fix. So firstly, I'm going to tackle the wiring and get the warning lights working. Then I need to sort out the wiring to get the headlights working properly, and of course the indicator, which might just be a bulb. But based on all the other wiring problems I've seen, I think it's going to be wiring. I discovered while driving the buggy that I do not have a working clock. My fuel gauge left me without fuel on the side of the road, needing to be recovered. My temperature gauge doesn't work, which is not surprising seeing as though there's no sender on the engine, and the voltmeter was not working. That meant I had a serious wiring problem somewhere. What does work is the speedometer. I have a working rev counter. Now, I have a red light and I have a green light, but neither of them illuminate at any time. I have a yellow light, and down here I have a blue light, but none of them work. I read when I opened the contents about the red light being on for the alternator or generator and the green light being on for the oil or red light. Red light on, green light on. Well, neither my red light nor my green light go on, so I've got to sort that out. So the green wire is from the oil sensor. The blue wire is from the voltage regulator. No, the brown wire is from the voltage regulator. The red wire is from the generator, and the blue wire goes to the starter solenoid. Pretty confusing when they're not the right color. So the blue, I'm trying to trace the earth from the voltage regulator through these bundle of wires which go underneath the buggy into the cockpit, because there's a problem somewhere along that earth that I need to resolve. I'm trying to trace the little earth wire. Aha, there it is. I've got the other end of the brown wire over here. That doesn't fill me with great amount of confidence. Exposed live wires. That's what I found. Really dodgy live connection. That green wire down there is attempting to earth to the chassis, but of course it's bolted to the fiberglass, so that's got to change. So this is the earth wire from the chassis. Give these wires a bit of a clean here so I can see what colour they are properly. I suspect that's blue. That's blue. So this is one of the problems I'm dealing with. That's a blue wire leaving the starter solenoid, going in through the chassis and into the body. And there's the blue wire coming from the starter solenoid. So it goes up and then it becomes a red wire underneath the dash. That's not very helpful. There's my blue wire from the starter solenoid, which joins a red wire, and just going into the ignition changes to blue again. And I have that problem everywhere underneath the dash where the wires are changing color. Random things you find underneath the seats: a golf ball and a model aeroplane. Well, this is what I'm dealing with underneath the dashboard. Lots of miscolored wires. Here's a positive red power going into a blue and white stripe. There's yellow going into red. There's black going into red. There's brown going into red. I really need to sort out what's going on in here. Today's going to be a long day. Let's do some wiring. I'm going to replace the wire from the voltage regulator that goes down to the starter motor. What I'm going to do is replace this ring connector here with a new copper one, and then give it a bit of shrink wrap to make it a bit more watertight than it is, because you can see that it's looking in pretty bad shape on the one side. Beautiful. Nice new copper fixings. Nip that up. That is all the insulation tape removed now from the Loom. More wires this morning for the lights. I'm trying to match colors. What I'm going to do now is match these wires, these multicolored wires that are coming out of the steering column for the lights. They are mismatched. So here's a green and white that connects to yellow. Here is a red and blue that connects to red. There's a blue and white that connects to red. So it's just a mess. So I'm going to match all of these colors the whole way through to the fuse box so we can trace them properly. You can see the abundance of yellow wires, which just making it really difficult to trace what's going on. Just working through and replacing everything that's on there as it is before I know exactly what these different connectors are. Just going to put it back the way it was. I will replace the brown wire for some better suited color. So here we've got blue and red coming out of the steering column, which connects to blue, which runs through to the fuse box, which as you can see I've removed from the firewall, well, the bulkhead. I'm going to replace that with some new blue and red so I can trace the wire correctly. Blue and red, snip. It's a little bit tricky doing this on your back, lying upside down. So this is the wire that I cut originally that went from blue and red to blue. I'm now going to replace it on the bottom of the fuse box here. Being no auto electrician, but blue and white into red doesn't make me happy, so that's going to change. In case you're wondering, I have matched the size of the wires coming out of the steering column. So I've got the same ones because I found a lot of wires where it goes from thick to thin to thick to thin. I just want to make sure that they're correct. There we go. Now we got blue and white the whole way through. Oh, it makes me happy. Here we have an earth wire. It's brown, which is good, but it has multiple connections like this between the relay and the headlight. So here's another problem. Brown into red. The red becomes brown again and becomes blue and red. That's got to change as well. I've made up a connecting loom for these instruments to earth them. Fuel gauge, voltage regulator, and a clock which is not powered because presumably it was draining the battery, so it was simply cut off. That is an earthing post up there attached to the steel framework for the steering column. A very bad earth to the fiberglass and not to the chassis. I'm in the process now of replacing all of the earth cables to that post over there, because many of them change color and a lot of them are green, some are brown, some are yellow.
At the Porsche Curves campsite. If you've enjoyed this is Maria Lopez on the radio.
Welcome to the back of my dashboard. So I've replaced a lot of the wires, run some new ground leads. I just want to start tidying up these different bits. Side lights going in, grey. The grey for the side light switch. Coming across to the fuse board that I removed. It's connected up to a little black wire here, which goes through the bulkhead to the front of the car, which I presume is the feed for the side lights on the front.
All in at 14, the GTE Pro cars, which are 91, the red and white car, and drops in. Maybe it's dead, Ollie. You get much cheaper to get exactly the same as F1, just got a weirdness about, different way miles.
Tom, Bill, and Tom, thank you so much for taking some time to zoom down the chart a little bit, huh?
Is it Europe? It's 86 on 88.
I've replaced all of the earth leads like this. Nice new bolt, a copper washer and a nut for the underside. There you go, a nice new earthing point which runs up to that earthing post up there. Some conduit to protect the loom. I'm going to run this from the back to the front.
There's a crowd on the road as well. Data signal, double curve, that is where all the reservoirs snap apart. Yeah, that's, you don't want this. Is only now approaching Indianapolis. And again, these hour-long stints don't always the risk of a late safety car, I suppose. If the gravel bed, there isn't an access road. Was destroyed in practice, was rebuilt, and what a fantastic performance that is. Traditional, maybe something amiss with the car, but definitely that front body works. It's pretty remarkably quickly with new nose and ready, but off Sunday morning when your eyes are knackered.
That is the new wiring loom. Let's check the warning lights now. We've got the red light and the green light. Well, that's the first stage done. New wiring from the engine through to the dashboard, new earths, new ground to the body, chassis body, and next I'll be moving on to wiring the headlights, so watch out for that video. Happy days.